Welcome back. We are going to look at planning a menu for the astronauts today. We are at day 5, and it's time to really start thinking about what we're going to do with all this food we need to send to our next mission. We're going to work with an idea of a 5-day plan and a 5-day rotation. Keep in mind that the astronauts rotate those menus, so you're going to want to be creative with this. Just because would you eat the same food over and over? So let's go ahead and take a quick peek at what we need to get done today. Okay, you're going to create the menu, and let me see if I can move my head out of the way for you. You're going to create the menu. You and your crew are going to design a menu for a 5-day mission to space. Before we get started, we're going to watch a quick video, and it's really not that quick. It's probably it's a few minutes long. We're going to watch a video about what the crew likes about eating aboard the space station. And it's really interesting because you're going to hear from a Canadian astronaut and a Russian astronaut, and they're on the space station talking about how they enjoy food. In the near future, though, astronauts are going to be just traveling to places like Mars. So we're talking long missions. To get to Mars, we're looking at 6 months of travel. The travel time would be about the size of something like a small van, a minivan, like an SUV in China. So it'll be cramped quarters. It'll be small. There's not a whole lot of room. As you plan the menu, though, after we're done with the video, as you plan the menu, you're going to consider that the food has to meet certain criteria in order to go in orbit. So we'll get to that shortly because he's going to talk a little bit about this in the video. So we're going to watch the video, and then we're going to come back, and then we'll wrap up so you can get on your creative planning for astronauts who might be really hungry right now.
Food scientists in the United States and in Russia and in the other partner countries prepare food for us in 16-day cycles. What that means is that for any given individual, we can go through a menu for 16 days and not see the same combination of items on 2 consecutive days. After the 17th day, we'll start with the first day again. Food comes up to us in containers like these here. The ones with the red label contain Russian food items. The ones with the blue label contain food from the United States or one of the other Western partner agencies. Each container also is identified with the type of food that's inside as well. So, for example, the blue one that I'm holding contains meats in pouches and cans. And the red one that I'm holding contains a general selection of Russian food cans and thermal-stabilized products.
As you can see around our dinner table, this is a table for 6. We don't have plates. Of course, we don't need plates in space because, again, everything would just float away. As I can demonstrate as well with this chocolate drink here, you can just leave it in front of you. You don't need to put it on the table. It just stays where it is. Also for eating, we usually don't eat knives and forks because everything is pre-cooked, everything is ready for us to eat. So we typically eat with spoons. So here I have one of my spoon containers that I have here, and we'll shortly demonstrate how we eat with spoons on board of the ISS.
Another type of food that we eat is fresh food. Periodically, a vehicle will come and visit the space station. We're expecting the space shuttle to arrive in the next 3 or 4 days. Or a Progress cargo vehicle will arrive. And in those occasions, we can bet that there will be fresh fruit and fresh vegetables. We don't keep fresh fruit and vegetables on board the station because we don't have a large fridge to store all of them for long periods of time. But for the first few days or weeks after a cargo vehicle or the shuttle has visited, we do have some fresh fruit and vegetables. Frank is opening a container of rehydrated fruit. He'll open it very carefully with a pair of scissors. As long as the food sticks to itself, it's safe to be opened up. liquids will need to be eaten or drank with a straw. And it's important, since we share utensils, to always wipe them off between each use so that the next person may feel comfortable using the utensil or the pair of scissors. Now with the package open, Frank will use his spoon and take out some, what is this, Frank?
These are berries. It's a medley of berries with sugar. It's very tasty, actually.
So he'll get it to stick to his spoon and then slowly bring it up to his mouth. If he moves fast, then the berry will go on its own trajectory and might miss Frank's mouth.
One of the other things that we have here in the space station to eat is actually bonus food. Bonus food is very good because it contains a selection of food that we really like and that we can choose ourselves. Of course, they still need to meet certain shelf life, so it means that they cannot go off in the time that we are here on board. But one of the examples of the bonus food that I have here in front of me is sausage, for example, Italian sausage, which is, of course, very nice to eat, which I share with all my crewmates. Bob brought already for tonight some clams. And this is always, of course, in favor. And as I said, eating on board of the space station, like Earth, but even more so here, I think, is a very social occasion. So most of our bonus food and goodies that we have, we share with our crewmates because it's more a pleasure to share than to enjoy it by yourself.
I have one more bonus food item here, which is not part of the standard space station menu. This is a special type of granola bar made with maple sugar. I'm Canadian, so I have a special fondness for the taste of maple sugar. All of the bonus food items all need to be flight qualified. That means that food scientists will test that they don't contain any microbial contamination that might cause ill health amongst astronauts. Frank is enjoying his medley of berries, and I'm going to try some thermal-stabilized pears.
One of the other aspects, of course, by eating in space is that we still have some waste. As you see, the packages, they are quite small. They are made as tiny as they can, but there still are waste that we need to take care of because we have very little space on board here of the International Space Station. That's why usually we are very careful when we eat. Every package that we open is eaten up completely. We don't waste any food here because it's very expensive to bring the food up to the space station. And then once the packages are empty, we pack them as small as we can, and then we put them in one of those little bags as Bob can show here. Also these bags we put as full as we can, and then once they are full, then they go into the Progress, and then they burn up on re-entry to Earth. But we are really very careful in packing our stuff and in taking care of the environment here on the ISS. For example, I was using there a small wipe. I have it here, a small wipe to clean my utensils. Usually a wipe like this we try to use it for at least 2 or 3 days. We cannot afford every time to use a number of wipes to wipe our utensils because this would make it way too much garbage here on the space station.
We live inside a spacecraft. That means that we're sheltered from the sun. Sunlight is actually helpful because the exposure of our skin to sunlight on Earth allows our body to produce vitamin D. Living in a spacecraft, our body's unable to do that. So part of our daily routine is to take 2 vitamin D tablets, and we take a total of 800 units, which helps to maintain strong, healthy bones in space. The vitamin D tablets come up with our food packages, so we're prompted or reminded to take vitamin D. It's also interesting that each crew develops a fondness for one particular food item. One of our favorites to eat for this crew of Expedition 20 is tortillas, which are contained inside this package here, spread with honey, lots of honey. And that's one of our favorites. We all finish off our meal each night with tortilla with honey. It sounds like a strange combination, but believe me, after you've been in space for 45 days, it's a real thrill.
So this was it for our food tasting session of today. It was really a pleasure that you could join us for it. It's really nice that you see as astronauts that we can do all of this, but it's also really nice, I think, for the nutritionists and the scientists that work in our food labs to be able to support this. So if you're interested in food, maybe you can also go for a space career. That's it from the International Space Station. We hope you find the subject of food and nutrition aboard the International Space Station interesting. Goodbye.
Pretty cool stuff if you think about it. If you think about what it looks like in your own home when you eat or when you go to the cafeteria, you don't have to worry about things floating around all the time. You have a trash receptacle, and you saw their little trash receptacle. They compact all those down, and then when they send them out into the orbit and they burn up on reentry. So it's a unique way to dispose of their trash. So a couple things to remember. There are some criteria that they talked about on the video that you have to have, or you have to, in order for the food to be allowed to go to orbit, there's a couple things you got to remember. It's got to be compact. It's got to be teeny tiny small. It has to be, got to fit small, got to be tight. It can't be a gigantic cereal box like this. It can't be like that. So it's going to have to be tight and compact. The other thing is that it's got to be lightweight, because to give you an idea, to send roughly like 500 grams to space, it is about $10,000. Yes, you heard me right. $10,000. That's a lot of zeros. That's a big number. So again, keeping that in mind, about $10,000 for about 500 grams. It's got to be nutritious. Bottom line, it's got to be nutritious, because this is the only thing they have. They cannot go down the street and go to get a burger, and they can't go down the street because they suddenly want to have a candy bar. So everything has to be nutritious, and it has to contribute to their healthy diet on the space station, or on the next one is going to be, let's see, the Orion's going up. So the next one it'll be that crew. So they've got to think about all of that. Okay, it's got to be tasty, because let's think about it. If it's not good, are you going to eat it? No, I don't think so. So you gotta keep that in mind. It's going to have their sense of taste. So this is why that taste test that we did is so important, because the astronauts actually work with the dietitians and they work with the chefs to figure out what they want on board the space station. So that's really a unique thing. So of course we've got nutritious, we got tasty, we got lightweight, we got compact. Now the other interesting thing, it has to be sticky or wet. And this is where it gets really strange, because everyone's like, ew, sticky or wet, oh, yuck. It has to be sticky or wet, because with the crumbs, they can't have crumbs, because crumbs are going to float away. Sticky and wet means that it's going to stick together. The molecules in the food are going to stick together. So think about a piece of gum. That would be okay. That's sticky. But the crumbs float around, and that can be a nightmare, because they can't clean them up. Processed or pasteurized. So this is the interesting thing that is very different, because in my house I don't eat a lot of processed foods. I cook things fresh. So in space, remember, if I pack now, I need to make sure I have enough food to get me to where I'm going. And that could be 3 days, it could be 3 months, it could be 6 months, it could be a year. So it has to be able to stay, it's what we call stable. It's got to stay stable until we get to where we're going. Because what if I have an apple and I get where I'm going and it's not good anymore? Or I get some milk and it's not good anymore, or I get bad yogurt or something and it's not good anymore. Then all of a sudden we have a big problem, because you have to have food that's edible and that's not going to make you sick when you eat it. So process means that it's been set up in order to be cooked when they open it up. Pasteurized means that it's been heated to a certain point in order to make sure that the germs have been cooked out of it. So when you pasteurize milk, you are actually, milk gets pasteurized because they need to get the what we call microbials out of it, because you don't want them to go in your body, and that could make the crew sick, and I don't see a hospital nearby, so that would be a problem. So again, these are the criteria for when you're doing your planning. Now, the other thing you need to think about, you might want to use the menu from the other day. Let me pull out my list here. You have two choices today. When we did the lesson yesterday, you had a sheet that looked like this. This was your baseline shuttle food list. This was just a short list, and it had some food choices on there. So you could do this one, and mine's front and back. I'm going to guess that yours is probably 2 pages. You could use that one, or teacher's also got another one for you today, and she's got this really cool list that is a longer list, and this has lots of choices on it because it lists the international varieties on here. So when I say international, I'm looking for one that jumps out here. And obviously I can't find it right this second, but there was one on here this morning I saw, oh my goodness, that would be a really great one to talk about. But they have some foreign foods on here. They have some things that would appeal to Russian astronauts or things that would appeal to the French astronauts. So that's just something to kind of keep in mind. So this is in here, and you can look at this one as well. And of course, the other day we used that really long menu that was in English and Russian. So you're more than welcome to use some of those things as you're planning your menu. Again, you're planning for 5 days. And I think that's all I got to tell you about it. I hope you have a lot of fun with it. You're getting me hungry thinking about it. So I do hope that it's getting ready to be break time for you so you can have a snack. I'm real curious what you come up with on this. So I'm going to ask the teacher to share them back with me, because I'm just curious as to what kids come up with, because sometimes kids think a lot smarter than grown-ups. I hope you have fun with this, and I will be back in touch with you very soon.